Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now.
At the ACLJ, one of our core issues has been defending the state of Israel and defending the sovereignty of the Jewish state. We're going to be talking about that today on our broadcast.
We're going to start getting into some topics that, of course, the ACLJ is heavily involved in. There's a threat of a lawsuit. Now, this is an irony of irony. The president, while all this was going on in Washington with the impeachment trial, there was also some other news, believe it or not, and that was involving the peace plan. And this was the Israeli-Palestinian peace plan. And it got some Arab world support, which was important. But there's already now a threat. Because of the peace plan, there is a threat by a group of Palestinian lawyers that have gotten together that say they will file lawsuits against any person that supports the plan or engages in business in the territories.
Yes, I mean, so we're seeing now, again, this is it between U.S. lawsuits, European lawsuits, anyone, any company, any politicians, individual businessmen. So not just their businesses, but individual businessmen. They are now making these threats to file lawsuits. And Dad, what we have seen in the past is that they will make good on at least filing the lawsuit and tying people up in court.
Oh, well, they have. I mean, we've got a case that we're handling right now in the district court. It wasn't the Court of Appeals,
right?
We won it at the district court, and then the Court of Appeals reversed it. And Andy, that was a case that alleged that any groups involved in any business activities, including Shelley Adelson, among others, with in the what's called the settlement areas, would be a violation of international law.
That was filed, believe it or not, Jay, in 2016.
I know.
That was filed.
And we won at the district court.
And we won at the district court. We represent Good Setzion Foundation, which is a charity dedicated to defending the history and people of Good Setzion, which is dozens of Israeli cities, towns, and villages near Jerusalem and Bethlehem. The wrongdoing that was alleged by the charities and nonprofits was they supported and continued to support the Jewish state of Israel.
Right.
That's their wrongdoing. We lost in the district. We won in the district court. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit reversed on jurisdictional grounds, which means you do have jurisdiction, sent it back to the district court. We are deciding right now whether we're going to litigate the motion to dismiss on other bases in the district court or just exactly what we're going to do.
Or take it on appeal.
Or take it on appeal
to the Supreme Court.
To the Supreme Court, which would be the next step.
Yeah, so Harry, you look at the, you looked at the peace plan. We're going to get into more on this in the next segment. You've looked at the peace plan. What's your assessment?
Well, my assessment is that this peace plan is a realistic approach to, A, improving the lives of the Palestinian people, and B, bringing peace to the Middle East. But equally clear, I think, if you look at the litigation filed by the Palestinians, that the Palestinian Authority opposes any plan that actually improves the lives of the Palestinian people. So they are committed to one goal and one goal only, apparently, and that is an attempt to destroy the legitimacy of the state of Israel, even if it hurts the Palestinian people.
So let me say this. We are prepared at the ACLJ, as we have been, to litigate these cases. So if this group of Palestinian lawyers bring cases, the ACLJ will meet that challenge. As I said, we're representing the Good Setzion Foundation. Andy just talked about that case. That's now going back to the district court for more litigation. So we will handle that. When we come back from the break, we'll be joined by Skip Ash. I want to talk to him about this case. I want to talk to him about the peace plan. We're also at the ICC again, International Criminal Court. Boy, it seems like yesterday. We were there December 4th, 5th, and 6th when it was involving the United States. Now there's one involving Israel. And your American Center for Law and Justice and our European Center for Law and Justice are front and center on those cases.
As we continue to defend Israel, please join us in your support for Israel at aclj.org.
Israel is under constant deadly terrorist knife and rocket attacks. Jewish students, professors, and Christians who support Israel face vicious discrimination at U.S. universities, all in an attempt to delegitimize the state of Israel. Israel is our ally, the Jewish people our friends. It's our duty to defend them. That's why the ACLJ is launching a massive new multinational legal campaign in defense of Israel, in the U.S., at the UN, and with world leaders. But we need these global leaders to hear from you now. Add your name to our new petition, a petition to defend Israel from anti-Israel attacks across the globe. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
So we got the Palestinian Authority threatening a lawsuit against anyone who accepts President Trump's peace plan. Harry just laid out for you that it is, and we'll get more into it, it's a comprehensive plan and one that he thinks has a lot of potential. What do you think is the biggest aspect of it, Harry? Is the economic side?
I think it's the economic side, but it also makes plans to, if you will, unify the lands controlled by the Palestinians and the lands controlled by the Israelis. And so essentially the Palestinian Authority would control a contiguous area, whereas I believe currently there's some areas that have difficulty communicating and moving from one area to another that are part of the Palestinian Authority. So I think it's very, very helpful. It's sensible. But I also think because it's sensible, because it's helpful, because it improves the lives of the Palestinian people, the Palestinian Authority is very committed to opposing it.
Well, that was one of the questions that came in via Facebook here is, which I thought was pretty interesting, is that, and this was, I think it just kind of sums it all up. And that is this is from Lucy, does the Palestinian Authority really want peace? I'm going to go to Skip Ash, our senior counsel in charge of our international law group, does a lot of work in Israel. Does the Palestinian Authority really want peace, Skip?
I think they want peace, but only on their own terms. They want 100% of their demands, and if they don't get 100% of their demands, then they're going to fight every little thing. Remember, they were given the opportunity on at least two other occasions where they were going to get 97% of what they asked for, and they rejected that. Abba Eban was right. They never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. So they want peace, but only on their terms, and ideally their terms is with Israel sitting in the middle of the Mediterranean.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, Andy, and I want Jordan to comment on this too. In looking at this latest move by the Palestinian Authority, which is basically they completely reject the plan, don't even want to discuss it, yet there's significant concessions in there that both sides would have to make. It does seem like what Skip's saying is right. They just don't want to go there.
Well, they don't.
Because it impacts their leadership base.
I think the answer really to the question that the Facebook a person said, does the Palestinian Authority really want peace, is the answer is no. Not on their terms, not on any terms. They want to continuously stir up action against the state of Israel because their ultimate determination, Jay, and the ultimate goal is to eradicate and to eliminate the existence of the state of Israel, period. And they give you these ideas that, yes, we'll take this or yes, we'll take that, but we want it on our terms. I think the real goal here is to eradicate and to eliminate the state of Israel, and peace means the lack of getting any more money, which is what their leaders really are wanting here, money and power. Once you have peace, you don't have that. They want that. They're not going to give up on any terms whatsoever.
Jordan, what do you think?
I think that when it comes to this issue, as Skip has said, as Andy has said, if it's not everything they want, and that includes Jerusalem, basically, they're in this position now of we're going to reject everything. And by the way, we're going to make these threats of suing everyone who would even support a peace plan. It's absurd, but it just tells you this is supposed to be the moderate faction within the Palestinians. These are supposed to be the people you can deal with when the Palestinian movement and with the Palestinian governments and leadership, and they reject everything without even going to the negotiating table. And I think that's what's so disappointing about the leadership for the Palestinian people. And it will take the people waking up one day, I think, to this and changing their leadership, because this is an old leadership set in their ways. They want Jerusalem. They must have. This is his guys. Right. They want Jerusalem. If they don't get Jerusalem, nothing's good enough, and they're not going to get Jerusalem.
So, Harry, I look at it. I want Skip to comment on this too, but I'll go to Harry first. And looking at it, it seems to me that the Palestinian people themselves probably want peace. It is the leadership that does not.
I think your analysis is spot on. Essentially, the leadership, this is my view, wants to continue the opportunity to take advantage of all of the aid plans, and then they take advantage of those aid plans, and then they ship a disproportionate amount of the money to Europe. So the plan that President Trump proposed would enable a future Palestinian state to be contiguous and united, but at the same time, the plan would not give the Palestinians the right to threaten Israel's security interest. It's also important to note that although the Palestinian leaders have already rejected this proposal and they're threatening to sue, representatives of the Arab states of Oman, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates attended this week's news conference with President Trump, where he announced his vision for peace. So there's some optimism about this peace plan among the Arab people broadly, but there's little optimism about the plan among the Palestinian leadership.
So, Skip, I want you to comment on that, because I want to say for the next segment our latest activity at the ICC.
Yeah, I think the president's plan recognizes reality between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And by doing so, they're trying to make the life of the Palestinians as nice as it can be by providing monies, by providing contiguous territories, by providing self-rule, at the same time with not endangering the existence of the State of Israel. I think the broader Middle East is finally coming to the realization that the promises that were made by the Palestinians to the Palestinians in the so-called diaspora were totally unrealistic. They're not going to get their houses back in the Tel Aviv area. They're not going to get Haifa back. They're not going to get these places back. The president recognizes that. He said, okay, what we want to do is to make your lives livable, enjoyable, so that you have a good life for yourselves and your children. They can live out their lives in peace and prosperity. And what we want to do is to solve these problems. And the more that the Palestinian authorities fight this or withhold it, the worse the situation gets, because the Israelis continue to develop. More people are moving there, and they're continuing to develop settlements and so forth. And those settlements, I want to emphasize that those settlements are lawful, despite what the international community says, and therefore the Palestinians are painting themselves into a corner, and they're never going to be able to get out of it if they don't make some compromises.
All right, well, coming up in the next segment, we're going to get into the latest move at the International Criminal Court in The Hague with the prosecutor, Office of the Prosecutor. We were there in December defending the United States' interests. Now we're going to be, looks like, back again defending Israel's interests.
As we continue to defend Israel, please join us in your support for Israel at ACLJ.org.
Israel is under constant deadly terrorist knife and rocket attacks. Jewish students, professors, and Christians who support Israel face vicious discrimination at U.S. universities, all in an attempt to delegitimize the State of Israel. Israel is our ally, the Jewish people our friends. It's our duty to defend them. That's why the ACLJ is launching a massive new multinational legal campaign in defense of Israel, in the U.S., at the UN, and with world leaders. But we need these global leaders to hear from you now. Add your name to our new petition, a petition to defend Israel from anti-Israel attacks across the globe. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
All right, let me go to. We're focusing today on the on some ACLJ cases that we've got. There's this threat of Skip. How do you view this threat of litigation? I mean, we saw it for real as it relates to the Al Tamimi case, which we're handling. So it's not like they don't do this. You do business with the territories and they file suits. So you got to take it seriously because they file lawsuits. They say they're prepared to file hundreds of them. What's your thought on this?
Well, I think lawfare is alive and well, and they've gained a lot from engaging in lawfare. So they're using the courts as their battlefield against their enemies. So I think they're probably going to do it. I just don't think they're going to have a lot of success, at least in the United States. They may have greater success in Europe because Europe is already has a basic anti-Israel forum. So anything that they can raise in Europe will be much better received. In the United States, I think much less so. But I think we have to prepare for it and expect numerous lawsuits.
Andy, what do you think? I mean, we're dealing with the Al Tamimi case. Like you said, we've been dealing with it for 3 years.
Correct. Well, I think we have to realize that the ICC is power grabbing and wanting to assert itself right now. The prosecutor, I should say, not the court. The prosecutor wants the Chamber of Judges to determine what land belongs to Palestine in direct contravention of a number of key principles of international law, as well as agreements entered into freely by the Palestinians with Israel. And as Skip Ash has said, it would be like some foreign entity coming into the United States and deciding that Arizona, California, and New Mexico really belong to Mexico.
So Skip, this new lawsuit or this new filing that the Office of the Prosecutor put forward, what is she exactly? It's a request for an investigation?
Actually, it's a request for the pretrial chamber to determine the territorial area that the so-called state of Palestine occupies, so she can know where the Israelis may have committed crimes on a territory of a state party to the Rome Statute. So they're being asked.
Basically asking them to determine the boundaries?
Absolutely. What she wants from them is their confirmation of statehood to include the footprint of that state. So this is something that we have to fight because, first of all, Palestine doesn't qualify as a state, and secondarily, this court has no authority to be able to make such determinations.
Now, Skip, we've already filed in this, correct? Or are we starting our filing process?
We have filed a request for leave to file submission. So we've filed a request to be able to file a response. That determination is supposed to be made Friday of this week. We'll know whether we're allowed to do it or not. And then if we are allowed to do it, we have to file by the 16th of March.
Skip, something we were talking about in our pre-radio call was that we're starting to see some of the same actors from way back when we were at the ICC the first time on this Israel situation. They're already starting to file their leaves to get involved on the other side of this issue.
Oh, we're already seeing that?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Professor Quigley from, he's now retired, but Professor Emeritus from Ohio State University was one of the people you debated, Jay, when we went over, when we met with the first time with the first prosecutor. He's come back again, and he says he has a strong case that Palestine is a state. We've answered that a couple of times. We're going to have to answer it again before this Chamber of Judges if we're given permission to do so.
Palestine is not a state. It has never been a state. It was a Roman province, if we want to go back to ancient history. But to make the argument that there is a state of Palestine as such is not true. And I think we need to be, as we have been very active with the ICC. Jay, we were very successful when we went there in December and made our arguments against jurisdiction over U.S. soldiers and the attempt by the prosecutor to prosecute them for war crimes. And I think this is something that we need to continue to do in this new phase.
Let me ask you this, Skip, on this one. No clearance yet on whether there'll be any kind of oral argument, right?
That's correct. I think when they publish the order that's going to come down probably Friday or early next week, they're going to lay out who may participate and whether there's going to be oral arguments.
What do you think? What's your gut?
My gut would probably be no, but because this is a pretrial chamber, this is not as important. But the issue is so important, I think there are going to be a lot of people who would like to have oral arguments. And if so, we're going to pursue it. If that's an option, we want to do that also.
Back to The Hague we might go. I mean, that's how it appears. So you look at the situation, Harry, in kind of from a policy perspective. You got a peace plan on the table, yet you got the threats from the Palestinian lawyers to file lawsuits against anybody that does business with the settlements. And then you have at the ICC the prosecutor saying, "Hey, we want the court to determine the statehood and boundaries, not the international communities, not the NGOs, not the UN. We want the court to decide what the boundaries are and whether there's a state."
I think your analysis is very, very sound. So essentially, we have a situation where global elites, something that Professor Patrick Deneen calls liberocrats, they respond to grievances or alleged grievances. And the Palestinian people have done a fabulous public relations job in cultivating what might be called a grievance culture. So global elites are quite prepared to ignore governing law, including international law, and instead substitute their own judgment for the judgment of the people's representatives. Keep in mind that the ICC, in theory, is grounded in the notion of the consent of sovereign states, and it's up to the political authorities to decide whether or not to agree to the Rome Statute governing the ICC. Yep. Israel and the United States have declined to join. Yeah. So this prosecutor at the ICC is saying, listen, let's substitute my judgment for the judgment of governing authorities, and this is demonic.
A threat of lawsuits from Palestinian lawyers. We have cases currently involving Palestinian lawyers that have sued our client, among others, Gush Etzion Foundation, which is a foundation for a settlement, large city actually in Israel, has been sued by these same Palestinian legal groups. And now we've got to move at the International Criminal Court in The Hague to have the court decide the boundaries of the state of Israel, which would include also the boundaries of Palestine, and to legally determine, Andy, if Palestine is a state, which would have to go through the UN, but she's trying to get the court to do it.
This prosecutor has got serious problems, let me tell you. She is so obviously anti-Israel and has been that way for a long time and needs to be severely reined in. And in one way, the court did rein her in, and she appealed that to the appellate chamber, which we addressed in early December. But now to have an international criminal court, think about this, Jay, making a determination of what the boundaries of a sovereign state are or should be is a ridiculous prospect.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she's trying to get this court to do, to make that determination. That will never be.
How do you see it playing out? I mean, I think that they obviously we'll be able to respond either in writing or orally to engage this, but they're not going to stop.
Well, I think the prosecutor is A, very, very persistent.
Yeah, no
B,
question.
the ICC's appellate chamber is much more cautious.
Yep.
But I also think that the ideas which propel the ICC prosecutor are becoming more and more widely accepted, including within American law schools.
Yep.
And pushed by American law professors who've been educated at elite institutions, who basically disdain the results of democracy, particularly a democracy controlled by the common people. And so essentially what we have here is a prosecutor who says, Well, let's ignore international law. Let's ignore sovereign boundaries. Let me decide what are the true and legitimate boundaries for the Palestinian people and the state of Israel. This is unsustainable.
At ACLJ.org, you will see almost every day something new that we're doing to defend the Jewish state, to defend Israel. There's new petitions, there's new stories, there's new information, new cases that we're working on, international cases, domestic cases. So I encourage you, go to ACLJ.org. There's always a way for you to stand for Israel by utilizing the resources at ACLJ.org.
Israel is under constant deadly terrorist knife and rocket attacks. Jewish students, professors, and Christians who support Israel face vicious discrimination at U.S. universities, all in an attempt to delegitimize the state of Israel. Israel is our ally. The Jewish people are friends. It's our duty to defend them. That's why the ACLJ is launching a massive new multinational legal campaign in defense of Israel, in the U.S., at the UN, and with world leaders. But we need these global leaders to hear from you now. Add your name to our new petition, a petition to defend Israel from anti-Israel attacks across the globe. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or you can add your name online, aclj.org. Thanks to your support of the ACLJ, we have had many victories.
The IRS now formally apologizing to Tea Party groups.
If any group feels like they're being targeted, they can go to federal court and bring our case. That's a victory.
It's one of the most significant wins in the ACLJ's history, to take on the IRS and win.
For more than 27 years, the ACLJ has been fighting for freedom and liberty in the United States and around the globe.
These are young people in their 20s and 30s that are doing this. They're fighting for life at a whole new level to beat back the abortion juggernaut. But I actually think we're winning. This is one of the social issues we're winning.
The release of Andrew Brunson.
We're flying and they finally left Turkish airspace. It's like, okay, we're really out of Turkey and free again.
We need your help as we continue this work here in the United States and around the world. Join us online at the American Center for Law and Justice at aclj.org.